Hey guys, back at it again, do another weekend project. Today I'm going to do something simple, easy, and fixable. I'm going to show you how easy it is to repair and change your rotors and your brakes on this 2007 Chevy Colorado. This is a 3.7 V5. Alright guys, let's get started. Alright guys, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and disconnect the AB sensor, because in order for us to take the rotor off, we have to actually remove the wheel hub assembly. So pretty easy job. Just get a 5-hole screwdriver, and this is where the AB sensor connector is. Two little tabs here. We're just going to go ahead and pry them out with the little screwdriver. So we're going to do it like this. Just be patient. Then once you get that out, I already disconnected this, but normally this is the other connector that goes here, and then it just goes in here like so. Just take it off. It's like a little tab here on the top. You push it, and then that would release it. And then you're going to get your little screwdriver again, and we're just going to pry these little clips off. Again, this is just holding the ABS like so. And then we have this 12 millimeter nut we're going to go ahead and remove. Let's go and do that real quick. Alright guys, sorry, it's actually a 13 millimeter nut that we're going to go to remove. And again, that's just going to go ahead and freeze up a little bracket that the ABS has. And what I like to do, so that way I don't lose things, I put back the actual nut. And then we have another little ABS bracket here. This is a 7 millimeter bolt. So let's go and take that off real quick. Just be very careful. Sometimes they come out, sometimes they're too stubborn, and make sure you put some WD-40 on it. Sometimes they could be very stuck, and these are known to kind of pop off if you put too much force. Alright, and again, it's just a little bracket holding the ABS. And what I like to do, I just like to put that back here so that way I don't lose it. And basically that's it for the first step, to remove the ABS sensor, because it's actually connected to the wheel bearing. Alright, let's go move to the next step. Okay, so next step, we're going to go ahead and remove the caliper to free the actual brakes. So all it is, we're going to have two 14 millimeter bolts, one here, one there. So let's go ahead and take that off real quick. And then I'm actually going to use a little S hook to kind of hang the brake caliper here. So I'm going to do that here real quick. So once we have that, guys, out of the way, we're going to go ahead and remove the brakes. And again, this video, if you're just installing the brakes, all you have to do is this step and just remove these brake pads out of here. Alright, so once we have removed this, we're going to remove these bolts. These are, I believe, 21 millimeter bolts. Let me confirm, bear with me here. Okay, yes indeed, they are 21 millimeter bolts. So we're going to remove these, and these again is holding the brake bracket. So I'm just going to remove that real quick. Alright, so once you do that, you could easily remove the bracket from there. So let's go to the next step. Okay, so the next step, we're going to remove 4 15mm bolts. One here, one there, and one on the other side. This one and this one. So in order for you to get to this bottom bolt here, you would have to remove the actual grease fitting from the ball joint. And then once you remove it, move this so you guys can see. So once you guys, I gotta move this AB sensor. Okay, so you're gonna have to remove this fitting from the lower ball joint. I had already loosened it for you guys, but and that way you can get the bottom bolt. Alright, so let's go ahead and remove these, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and remove these 4 15mm bolts to free up that wheel bearing so we can take out that rotor. One. Bear with me here, that's one. And this next one here, make sure that you use I want to say small socket. Don't use a deep one. You see here I'm having difficulty, so in this case I'm gonna have to use a ratchet for that. So let me go and get that real quick. Alright guys, I'm gonna get that ratchet to get that top one. Once you have it, loosen it up, go ahead and remove it. So once I remove that one, I'm going to turn the actual hub to the other side, like so. Just be careful with the ABS wire. And I'm going to go ahead and get the next. This is the third one. So now that's loose. Now this is going to be a tough one since you did have to take the grease fitting. I would recommend to use a wobble socket. Let me get that real quick. Okay, so something that looks like this, and this is a 15mm impact wobble socket. So you see how it fits there nicely, like this. And then you can get that ratchet. And go ahead and put it inside here. Alright, let's go ahead and see if we can loosen it up real quick. Because if you use a small socket, it's too narrow, so it's not going to be able to free it up. So let me see if I could get that loose. Bear with me. Okay, there we go. Alright, so let me get these rest of the bolts out, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, so I'm about to take the last the fourth 15mm bolt. But before you do that, I really encourage you, and this is just a habit, to get a marker or anything like that, and just make sure you kind of mark the backing plate here at the top, so that way when you put everything back together, everything lines up. And what I also like to do, since we're going to remove that rotor, what I like to do, I like to also make sure that I put a line on the actual rotor, well actually on the hub here, so that way when I put everything back with my new rotor, everything's gonna line up like so. See that? And I think I did this job a while back, so you could definitely see the previous rotor that I moved, that I changed maybe a couple. I actually resurfaced this rotor maybe like 6 months ago, but definitely encourage you to do this step, so that way when we put everything back, everything lines up as you go. Alright, so let me go ahead and show you what the next steps looks like. And this is where you got to be very careful. Again, I'm just removing the last bolt. And if you're lucky and you live in California and there's no rust, this would definitely just slide it out like so. See how it's sliding out? But if you live like in the Rust Belt, the East Coast, then you're definitely gonna have to hammer this away, or you could use like one of those pullers that you could pull the actual hub out. But again, I live in sunny California, so when you do take this off, the backing plate is going to come loose, so you want to be careful, and then you want to be careful not to damage the speed sensor. So you want to kind of prepare it so when it comes out, it comes out smooth. So let me show you, see if I could kind of get you an idea one-handed. Okay, see what I'm talking about? You got to be careful that whatever is loose kind of comes out smooth. So, let's see. And there you go, guys. That's the step to remove the wheel hub, so we can take out the rotor. And now let's go ahead and go here on my bench. Alright guys, so once you have your wheel hub and your rotor out, you want to turn this upside down, and you want to take out your backing plate. Just be careful not to damage the ABS sensor. Just put it there. And the next step, in order for us to remove the rotor itself, you will need 2 pieces of wood, same size. I think this is a just 2 pieces of wood, 6-inch wood pieces that I've had, and we're gonna put the rotor on top. If I can show you guys, kind of like that. It's gonna be on the top. Get you an angle. And the next step, we're going to remove these. These are 15mm bolts, so let's go remove them real quick. Go ahead and remove these bolts, and these are 17mm bolts. They are 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, if you have the luxury of using an impact gun, this is the simplest way to remove them. But if you don't have the luxury of impact gun, what you could do, you could actually use a pry bar, and you could probably put it like so, like this, and then you could grab a wrench, a ratchet. Bear with me here. And you can ratchet these out like so. If you have a buddy, or if you're strong enough, hold this and just ratchet it out. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just take these out. And there's 6. So once you've taken these out, you want to go ahead and flip over the rotor. And let me see if I can do this here with one hand. Okay. So once you get to this step, you're going to line up the ABS. There's actually some little holes that you can line up each corner like so, and then you could actually pull the rotor out. Let me show you. Now again, if you live in the East Coast, this is probably going to be rusted completely. So as long as you line these up where the holes are, you could actually use a hammer and you know, bang it and they'll come out. But in this case, since I already lined up everything completely, my rotor just came out like so, like that. And again, this would be another example if you're actually changing out your wheel bearing to put a new one and so forth. But for this video, I'm only changing the rotor and the brakes. Alright, so again, this is something that I want to show you how to remove this, and then we're going to go ahead and do the reverse, but I'm going to show you how to properly install it and torque it how it is. Alright, so I'm going to do that real quick. And again, this video is just to demonstrate how easy and simple it is. So do you remember that how you took it off? So let's just say we're going to do everything in reverse order. We're just going to go ahead and put everything back, and we're going to line up the hose like so, and then it's going to slide in. Okay, so let me go ahead and put everything back, and then we'll continue with the torques. Alright guys, so next step, once to put everything back, let's just say you have your new rotor, you can install it back how I mentioned, and then you're going to go ahead and hand tighten these bolts. Again, don't torque them yet, just hand tighten them, and then we're going to torque these once we have it up in the car according to GM 81 foot-pounds, and we're going to torque them in the crisscross pattern. That's what GM states. And again, we're just hand tying these right now. I find it easy to torque them once they're in the car, so you can have that nice leverage. So just go every single one of them, hand tying them as best as you can. Or if you decide to do this step right now and torque them, more welcome to do so, but I like to work smart, not hard. Again, they're just being torqued, and I lined up exactly flat on the actual rotor. Just hand tying up for now. So let me go ahead and finish this, and then we're going to the next step. Alright guys, so once you have these hand tying them or you torque them, we're going to go ahead and just make sure that everything's sitting properly like so. We're going to go ahead and turn this bad boy like so, and don't forget this step. You're going to be kicking yourself. A lot of people forget to put the dust shield. We're just going to install it back like so. Now we're going to get ready to install. Okay, hope I can do this with one hand, guys. You know what, let me get my tripod real quick, bear with me. Alright guys, so I'm getting ready to install the actual rotor wheel hub. So all you're going to do, very easy, you're first going to go ahead and slide in the ABS. Like so. Then we're going to put the wheel hub in like this. Just be very, very careful when you do slide it in. I already had cleaned the mating surface with the wheel brush. Just take your time with this step. There you go. And I don't know if you remember when I suggested to mark your backing plate either with a marker or whatever the case might be, so that way I know where everything is going back, and see how it's nicely flush. All I gotta do now is put those bolts back in, so I'm just going to do that real quick. Alright guys, so what I'm going to do next, I'm going to use some blue Loctite, and I'm actually going to put a little dab here, and I'm going to go ahead and start torquing these inwards. So I'm going to do that with all four, and then I'll be back. And I almost forgot, according to GM, these bolts get torqued at 92 foot-pounds, okay? 92 foot-pounds all the way around. So let's go and do that real quick. Alright guys, so again, we're going to torque these 15mm bolts that hold the wheel bearing, according to GM, at 92 foot-pounds. And this is why it's really important that you use a 15mm swivel impact, so that way when you do torque it to the correct specifications, you have that flexibility to do so. Just want to kind of, that's 92 foot-pounds of torque. Alright, perfect. Let's go on to the next one. And you're going to do this to all 4 bolts. Alright, so I'm going to do that, and then we'll go to the next step. Alright guys, so the next step, we're going to go install the actual brake mounting bracket. And for these, I also encourage you to put some Loctite. I'm just using the blue Loctite, just a dab there, and I will install it. And according to GM, these go torqued to 129 foot-pounds. So let me go install these, and then we'll torque them. Alright guys, so once again, these are 21mm bolts. According to GM, they get torqued at 129 foot-pounds. Okay. Alright, so now that we have everything torqued down, we're going to go ahead and put that grist feeding. Don't forget this last step. And since you're here, you have a grease gun, go ahead and grease this as well. There we go. So let me grease these ball joints as I'm here, and then we'll go to the next step. Alright guys, so next step, once we clean this out, we're going to go ahead and put the new hardware, which is clip on like so. Make sure they're nice and snug. And the next step, we're going to go and remove the sliding pin bolt. I'm going to clean the old grease, and we're going to install the new grease on the sliding bolts. We're just going to put a little bit, you know what, half of that. It's a little bit too much, so I'm going to save this. The next one, just make sure you grease it evenly. We're going to slide this back in here just to make sure that rubber grommet goes inside. This is the bottom one. And I'm going to put the new grease in there. This is very important steps. Otherwise, if you don't have really good grease, your braking system's not going to be able to slide freely like it should. And then just test it, go back and forth. That should have really smooth surface. Alright, let's install the brakes. Alright, so for the brakes, I'm using some brake lubrication. All it is, we're just going to grab just a dab, not a whole lot. And I'm just going to put it evenly on the back and also here on the tip. Just a little bit, tiny bit. I'm going to do this to both sides. And if you can see, I'm going to slide this one like so. Like that. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other one. So let me go and do that real quick and then we'll come back. Now when you do this part, just be careful not to get any of that in the actual brake pad itself. Just do it around where basically the metal is touching. And then we'll slide this in like so. Gonna push them in like that and just wipe off any excessive grease. Alright, so the next step, guys, we're gonna go ahead and compress the actual caliper. Let me go get my tool real quick. Now I have this tool to compress my piston, but feel free to use whatever you have in your arsenal to be able to compress it. Okay, that did it. So now I'm going to go ahead and install the caliper, and I'm going to provide you with the torque specs. Alright guys, so now we're almost done. We're going to do the last step. I'm just cleaning out putting some brake clean on the rotor. Again, I'm reusing this rotor, but if you have a new rotor, you definitely want to go ahead and I actually skipped this part. With your new rotor, make sure you apply freely to brake clean the front and the back. Since it does have like a little filament of grease when it leaves the actual warehouse. Alright, so in this moment we're gonna go ahead and put everything back. Let me get you guys a better angle. Alright, so the last step, guys, we're just gonna put everything back and reverse this harness. I removed the little 7mm bracket there, and the way this goes, I'm just gonna go like this. Make sure you line up the bolt, time that like so, just snug it in there. Once you tighten that, we're gonna go ahead and tighten the other bracket. This one goes under here, and just snug that in there. Tighten that accordingly, and then we're just going to go ahead and put this back here, this one, and this one, and then this one we're going to go ahead and clip. This is the inside. We're going to clip that on this one. Let's see if I can show you. I don't think I'll be able to show you, but just make sure you clip them both, and don't forget to put the little tabs back in. Okay guys, so this is the last step. Once we put the ABS sensor on, we're going to go ahead and torque the 17mm bolts. And what you do, the reason why I asked you to just hand tighten them before, we're going to go ahead and flathead screwdriver. We're going to pry it in between the rotor and the caliper, so that way it doesn't move. And according to GM, these have to be torqued at a crisscross star pattern. So we're going to start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, and that's the reason why we put a flathead screwdriver, so that way when we do torque it, we're going to go ahead and make sure that it gets torqued properly. So again, don't forget, we're going to torque them at a star-shaped pattern, okay? And that's just to make sure that the wheel bearing and the rotor are seated correctly. So that's the last step. Okay guys, hope you guys enjoy. Comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed day guys.